Hello everyone, good morning. Hello students, welcome to this sixth class of the Strategic Management Unit. This is the sixth class. We are just in the middle of the course and hopefully we are gonna have two guest speakers in the next 2 weeks speaking about different strategic management topics. During this class we are gonna make something different. We are giving a lot of content. We are seeing very different topics, and I would like to make a little recap or review of all the stuff we've seen from the beginning of the course. I really prefer that you interiorize, that you understand all concepts that we are seeing. I really prefer that you understand this presentation rather than study the previous presentation without not understanding. Okay, so we are going to cover all the content from the very beginning of the course, and then in the day before the exam we are going to make a second review or second recap of the second part of this course that we are starting today as well after this presentation, this review presentation or overview presentation. If you do not understand some concept that we are going to review in this presentation, please feel free to ask me through Canvas. And at the end of the class, we are gonna see another video about the second part of the course related with regulatory topics of the strategic management unit, and then we will speak about the final assignment. During the class 1, we introduced the strategic management unit. We spoke about the different assignments. We spoke about the different parts of the syllabus and how the students are going to be graded. And maybe the most important, we spoke about the concept of strategy. For example, there are three main definitions. The first one states that strategy could be defined as the long-term direction of a company. Strategy is deciding where and how to compete, and strategy is the creation of a unique and valuable position. Another definition was given by Milsberg, which states that the strategy shall be defined in terms of the 5 different P's. The 5 P's are perspective, plan, patterns, position, and ploys of the company within the market. And finally, in class 1, we studied the 3 levels of strategy, meaning that there are the corporate level, the business level, and the operational strategy level. In the corporate strategy level, we shall decide in which business do we shall be in or out. So in which business our company has to participate. In the business strategy, once we have decided in which business we have to participate, we have to decide the tactics, the ploys to beat the competition. And in the functional strategy, we have to decide about the operational methods to implement the tactics. In class 2, we mainly spoke about strategic purpose. This is super important. What's the goals of the company? Where are the companies going to? And the strategic purpose are going to be defined by 3 very important factors: the governance structure and the corporate governance, okay, the stakeholder expectations, and the social responsibility and ethics in business. As we have seen, one of the things that have influence over the strategic purpose of a company is the stakeholders' expectations. And of course, in class 2, we spoke about the meaning of stakeholders and how to classify their expectations. Well, the best definition of stakeholders was made by the creator of the stakeholder theory, which is Freeman, who discussed that the stakeholder is any group or individual who can affect or is affected by the achievement of the organization objectives. Is everyone who is around the company. As you may see in this circle, you can see first of all the company, and then their employees, the creditors, the customers, suppliers, unions, even the government or the entire society. Okay, here's a classification between internal and external stakeholders. We can say that internal stakeholders are the founder, the board of directions, the CEO, the shareholders, of course, the managers, employees, and family members in case of business, family business. Or on external stakeholders, we can refer to customers, suppliers, creditors, unions, special interest groups, the government, or large professional bodies. And very important, in class 2, we spoke about the Mendelow's matrix, which is a very important tool in strategic management used for classifying the stakeholders depending on the notion on power and interest. When we speak about power, we refer to their actual ability to influence over the company, and when we speak about interest, we refer to their stakeholders' desire to influence on the company. As you may be aware, there are a lot of different expectations depending on the stakeholders. Here you have a couple of examples. For example, it's not the expectations are not the same within the shareholders or the customers. The shareholders would expect to have a growth in dividend payments, a growth in the share price, or a growth in the asset value. Instead, the customers desire to have a competitive price, a quality product or service, a guarantee in the products, okay? And depending on the different expectations of those stakeholders and the power and the interest within the company, the matrix, the Mendelow's matrix, classified them and states that if you were a manager of such company, you have to dedicate them minimum effort, or keep them informed, keep them satisfied, or they are key players and you have to keep them informed and satisfied. So Mendelow's matrix is a very useful tool to classify stakeholders and to see to which stakeholders do you have to pay more attention. Another very important factor to create the strategic purpose is the corporate governance of the company. As you remember, in class 2, we spoke as well about the corporate governance, which basically means the ability of the shareholders to control the board of directors. As you remember, in listed companies, the power of the board of directors is almost total, as usually a lot of listed companies has a big amount of free float, so very tiny shareholders, and their ability to control the board of directors through the general shareholders meeting is minimum. And therefore, the corporate governance try to establish several tools in order to control the board of directors. And the final factor which has influence over the strategic purpose of companies is the social responsibility and ethics in business. This is a very important topic, and this been increasing during the last years. During class 2, we spoke about business ethics, which are a set of ethical principles and moral standards that arise in the business environments, and a very important thing which we call the corporate social responsibility, which is concerned with the ways in which organization exceeds its minimum obligations to stakeholders specified through regulation. You have to remember this pyramid of corporate social responsibility, which states that the main obligation of a company is to be economically good, then to fulfill the legal requirements, and if we escalate through the pyramid, the company shall fulfill with ethical parameters, and finally the philanthropic level. On class 3, we started speaking about the layers on the business environment. So it's very important, it's one of the most important things in the subject to understand the importance of the business environment of companies. As you may see in this circle, we are going to see this circle in a lot of times during the strategic management course. The company is surrounded by different layers, and those layers are very important to understand the macro environment and the micro environment of the company and what factors could have influence over the company. In class 3, we started speaking about the further layer of the business environment, which is the macro environment. The macro environment is formed by 6 different factors which a company itself cannot control, and the best tool to analyze the macro environment is the PESEL analysis tool, which is formed by 6 different factors: political factors, economic factors, social and cultural factors, technological factors, environmental factors, and legal factors. So when we speak about the PESEL analysis, we do not have to focus on those factors on, for example, a particular country. We have to focus on a particular country and on a particular region, but as well on a particular industry, because those political factors, economic, social, cultural, technological, environmental, and legal factors are going to be different depending on the concrete industry. So, for example, you can see here a PESEL analysis of the airline industry, and the political factors, economic factors, and legal factors, for example, they are not the same that if we made a PESEL analysis on the car industry, for example. So when you perform a PESEL analysis, we have to focus on the concrete country and the concrete region, but as well in the concrete industry of the company that we are analyzing. On class 3, we continued speaking about the next layer of the business environment, which is the microenvironment. The microenvironment is formed by the analysis of the industry of the company and the competitors of such company. And therefore, we started with a definition of industry. An industry is a group of companies producing the same product or service. For example, the car industry, the travel industry, etc. And therefore, the microenvironment, the analysis of the industry, wonders why some industries are more profitable than others. And therefore, it's necessary to analyze the dynamics of competitive structures. It's necessary to analyze the nature of competition within such concrete industries. And the main model that we have to analyze the industry, the competence in the industry, is a very important strategic management tool called the Michael Porter's 5-force analysis model. And basically, this is a model for industry analysis that views the profitability of an industry determined by the 5 sources of competitive pressure. Those 5 forces are the existing competitors within that industry, the potential entrants within that industry, which is going to be determined by the entry barriers of such industry, their suppliers and their bargaining power, the substitutes of such industry, and their buyers and their bargaining power. Here you have a picture of the Michael Porter's 5 forces analysis, which analyze the 5 sources of competitive pressure, and depending on those forces, the rivalry among existing competitors shall differ. Okay, the competition within the industries shall differ. Those forces are the threat of new entrants, which are going to depend on the barriers to entry, economies of scale, the brand loyalty, etc. The bargaining power of suppliers, which depend on the number of size and suppliers, the uniqueness of each supplier's product, the focal company's ability to substitute, the threat of substitute products, which refers to the number of substitute products available in the market, the buyer propensity to substitute, etc., and the bargaining power of buyers, which depend on the number of customers, the size of each customers, or the difference between competitors. Continuing with macro environment, on class 4 we started speaking about competitors, which is the next layer of the business environment. To understand competitors is very important to perform an analysis of the company, and we started the analysis of competitors by the concept of a strategic group. Strategic groups are organizations, are companies within an industry with similar strategic characteristics, following similar strategies, or competing on similar bases. And the concept of strategic groups can help us to identify close and more remote competitors. For example, you can find here a picture of the strategic group map of selected automobile car industry, automobile car manufacturers, and depending on the quality and the price of the car, the competitors, the brands are going to be located in different parts of the strategic group map. And therefore, by locating us on such a strategic group map, we are going to be able to know which are our direct competitors and who are our competitors that are within the same industry but do not represent a direct competition with us. And we have seen the strategic group concept is useful at least in 3 different ways. First of all, to understanding competition. In this case, managers can focus on their direct competitors rather than the whole industry. Let's think, for example, in a fast food restaurant that its direct competition is not a luxury restaurant on the city. So you have to focus just on your direct competitors. The strategic group concept is useful as well to analyze and to the analysis of strategic opportunities. For example, to find a strategic gap is an opportunity in the competitive environment. By doing an strategic groups, you are going to see where are the gaps of the industry and which gaps are not being fully exploited by competitors, and therefore maybe your strategy shall focus on that direction. And finally, the strategic group concept is useful for the analysis of the mobility barriers. As you may understand, it's not the same for example, let's think in this strategic group map of the car industry here. It's not the same market that Ford has and than the market of Porsche or Ferrari. And if Ford wants to compete with Porsche and Ferrari, and it has to move across the map, and it's going to have a lot of entry barriers to move across the map. And by doing a strategic group map, you are going to be able to calculate the cost of moving across the map to take advantages of such opportunities. So the group map, the concept of strategic group map is very important in business strategy. And we finish class 4 speaking about competitors and in concrete about market. You have to be aware that in the marketplace, customers, we do not have the same expectations, and therefore there is a very important tool of market segmentation which separate customers depending on different bases. Depending on the industry, there are different factors to separate customers. For example, demographic segmentation, geographic segmentation, behavioral segmentation, or psychographic segmentation. Here you can find some factors to market segmentation. For example, depending on the characteristics of people, the age, sex, race, income, family size, etc. Depending on the purchase and use situation, the size of the purchase, the brand loyalty, and so on, and depending on the user needs and preference for product characteristics. And we as well saw different key benefits of market segmentation. You have to remember the McDonald's video that we saw about the market segmentation. The market segmentation is going to help us to determine market opportunities. It's going to help us to determine different marketing strategies. You are going to be able to tailor-make marketing initiatives depending on which people are those campaigns focused on. And another key benefit of the market segmentation is that the product development and design, depending on which is the target of such product, and finally determine the product pricing. So it's not the same to product for students than for wealthy people, for example. And we finished the first part of the class 4 by speaking about the strategic customers, which is the person at whom the strategy is primarily addressed, and the critical success factor are product features that are particularly valued by a group of customers, and therefore where the organization must excel to outperform competition. And this is the end of this first video of the 6th class of the overview, but we are continuing with the overview in the next video, the second video. Thank you.